So we have discussed about the cholinergic receptor in the last lecture, and what are the cholinergic receptors? Cholinergic receptors are those receptors through which the acetylcholine works, and we have two types of cholinergic receptors through which the acetylcholine can work. One is the nicotinic receptor, and the other one is the muscarinic receptor. And why we call some receptor as a nicotinic and other receptors as a muscarinic? Because at the cholinergic receptor, those receptors at which the nicotinic and the acetylcholine can both work, they are known as the nicotinic. And at those receptors at which the acetylcholine and the muscarine and alkaloid works, they are known as the muscarinic receptor. And in the nicotinic receptors, we have again nicotinic receptors have been divided into two types. One are the NN type, and the other one are known as the NM type. The NN type is present. NN type are those type of nicotinic receptor that are present at the level of the autonomic ganglia, and the NM type of the nicotinic receptor are present at the level of the skeletal muscles at the neuromuscular junctions. Then we also have the muscarinic receptors, and in the muscarinic receptors, we have 5 different types of the muscarinic receptor from M1 to M5, and these muscarinic receptors are present at the effector organs, which are innervating by the parasympathetic nervous system. Beside the presence of the muscarinic receptor at the effector organ, the muscarinic, all type of muscarinic receptor are also present at the central nervous system. Only the muscarinic receptor of type M2 and M4, they are also present at the level of the central nervous system, but beside the central nervous system, they are also present at the target organs, or those target organs which are carrying the innervation by the parasympathetic nervous system. Because the innervation by the sympathetic nervous system, those organs which are carrying the innervation by the sympathetic nervous system, they must be having the adrenergic receptor. They must not be having the cholinergic receptor. So therefore, it should be clear in your mind that only those target organs which are carrying the innervation by the parasympathetic nervous system, only they are carrying the muscarinic receptor, because those postganglionic neurons are the cholinergic neurons. Remember? You remember class? Where are the cholinergic neurons? Cholinergic neurons are those neurons which produce and release the acetylcholine, and the neurons of the preganglionic and the postganglionic neurons of the parasympathetic nervous system are both the cholinergic neurons. So the preganglionic neuron of the parasympathetic nervous system is a cholinergic neuron. It will release acetylcholine, and at the ganglia we have the cell body of the postganglionic neuron, and the acetylcholine which is released by the preganglionic neuron of the parasympathetic nervous system. That acetylcholine will be then goes to the postganglionic neuron, and which is present in the ganglia, and that acetylcholine will act on the receptor which is present on the postganglionic neuron, and the receptor which is present which will bind with that acetylcholine is the nicotinic receptor type. So the acetylcholine which is released by the preganglionic neuron of the parasympathetic nervous system will act on the nicotinic receptor which is present on the postganglionic neuron of the parasympathetic nervous system, and then there will be the further release of the acetylcholine by the postganglionic neuron, and that acetylcholine which will be then released by the postganglionic neuron of the parasympathetic nervous system, will then directly will innervating the target organ, and that will be received by the muscarinic receptor on the target organ. Whereas in the case of the sympathetic nervous system, the preganglionic neuron releases acetylcholine. That acetylcholine is then goes and bind with the nicotinic receptor, which is present on the postganglionic neuron of the sympathetic nervous system. But that postganglionic neuron of sympathetic nervous system do not secrete the acetylcholine. Instead, that postganglionic neuron of the sympathetic nervous system release another neurotransmitter, which is the norepinephrine. So this is the difference between the postganglionic neuron of the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic. That the postganglionic neuron of the sympathetic nervous system release a norepinephrine, whereas the postganglionic neuron of the parasympathetic nervous system releases acetylcholine. So the when the postganglionic neuron of the sympathetic nervous system is releasing the norepinephrine, so there is, I think, there is a no need of the muscarinic receptor, because you are not releasing the acetylcholine. In that case, you are releasing norepinephrine. So therefore, instead, you need the adrenergic receptor, which can bind with the norepinephrine and produce action. So the target organ is receiving the adrenergic receptor in that case. So keep in mind this difference. Similarly, some neurons of the sympathetic nervous system are directly going to the adrenal medulla, and because that neurons are also secreting the acetylcholine, and that is being welcomed by the nicotinic receptor on the adrenal medulla. And then if when the acetylcholine binds with the nicotinic receptor, it will stimulate that adrenal medulla, and the adrenal medulla on turn release the epinephrine. I know that the epinephrine is not cholinergic in nature, so therefore you don't need any cholinergic receptor on the target organ. Instead, we get the adrenergic receptors. And then there comes the somatic nervous system, and you know that the neurons from the somatic nervous system directly innervating the skeletal muscle, and the neurons of the skeletal and the neurons of somatic nervous system only release the acetylcholine. So that definitely the target organs innervating by the somatic nervous system, they must have the acetylcholine receptors, and the type of the acetylcholine receptor which are present on skeletal muscle are of the nicotinic type of the NM. Are you getting my point, last? So, why the nature has distributed these receptors depending upon the cholinergic neurons. If there is a cholinergic neuron there, the nature has given them cholinergic receptor there. And if there is no cholinergic neuron, the nature has not given the cholinergic receptor there. So the nature has provided these receptors depending upon the type of the neuron which is present over there. Right. So we have discussed about the nicotinic receptors, and we have discussed that the nicotinic receptors, uh, they are the ion channels. They are the ion channels, and the acetylcholine comes and binds with that ion channel. This is the receptor, and that receptor is made up of 5 subunits, and the acetylcholine comes bind with that receptor, and the channel is open, and when the channel is open, the sodium from outside comes inside the cell, and because of the entry of sodium inside the cell, uh, the charge of the cell becomes more positive, and it becomes easier for the cell to stimulate, and the cell activity will be increased. So this is how the acetylcholine is increasing the activity of the cell after binding to the ion channel. So these are the nicotinic receptors. These are the ion channel. These are not the 7-pass receptors. These are not the serpentine receptors. These are the ion channels. Now we have discussed about the nicotinic receptors mechanism. Now we were discussing about the muscarinic receptors, and I have told you that among the muscarinic receptor types, the M1, the odd number, the numbers which are odd, M1, M3, and M5, these are the excitatory receptors. So for example, when the acetylcholine binds and stimulates the M1, M3 and M5, the cell activity will be increased. And the muscarinic receptor M2 and M4 are the inhibitory receptors. So when the acetylcholine binds to the M2 or the either M4, the cell activity will be decreased. So the acetylcholine in the both types of the muscarinic receptor, the acetylcholine is binding and stimulating the receptor. But in the case of the M1 and M3 and 5, the selectivity is increasing, and in the case of the M2 and M4, the selectivity is decreasing. So now we will try to understand what is the mechanism, why after binding with the M1, M3, M5, why the selectivity is increasing and why binding with the M2 and 4 is decreasing. So we will discuss this by the mechanism. You will understand this thing by the mechanism. Also, we have discussed that I have told you earlier. I think there is no need to tell this again, right? So what is the mechanism of action of the muscarinic receptor? How the muscarinic receptor works? If you remember, do you remember the mechanism of action of the adrenergic receptors? If you remember the mechanism of action of the adrenergic receptor, it will be very much easier for you to understand the mechanism of action of the muscarinic receptor, because the mechanism of action of the adrenergic receptors and the mechanism of action of the muscarinic receptors, they are same. They are same, absolutely same. Right? How they are same? I will tell you. Number one, no, firstly, I am discussing about the receptor type M1, M3, and M5, which are the excitatory receptors. So how they are increasing the activity of cell? Let's discuss. For example, this can be the M1 receptor, this can be the M3, or this can be the M5, because the mechanism of action of M1, M3, and 5 is the same. So number one thing is that the muscarinic receptor are same as of the adrenergic receptors. They are 7-pass receptors. They are the serpentine receptors, and they are the transmembrane receptors, and they are coupled with the G protein. So the nicotinic receptors are the ion channels, and we call the muscarinic receptor as a metabotropic receptors. Why we call also them as a metabotropic receptors? Because after the drug binds with that kind of receptor, a series of reactions starts. So we have also seen in the case of the adrenergic receptor that when the drug binds with the receptor, series of reactions starts in the cell. So we call that kind of receptor as a metabotropic receptor. So don't be confused with that terms. Uh, so muscarinic receptors M1, M3, all type of muscarinic receptors are the 7-pass receptors, serpentine receptors, and they are coupled with the G protein. So now we are discussing about the M1 or the M3 or the M5. So in that case, these are the excitatory receptors. So when the drug acetylcholine, for example, if any drug or the acetylcholine is bind with the muscarinic receptor, then that muscarinic receptor, you know that it is linked with the G protein. So for example, this is the lipid bilayer, and this is the muscarinic receptor, and the portion of the receptor which is present at outside the cell, that portion is known as the extracellular domain of the receptor, and this is the portion of the receptor which is inside the cell. So that is known as the intracellular domain of the receptor. So the drug or the acetylcholine binds with the extracellular domain of the receptor, and the area at which the acetylcholine binds with the receptor, that area of the receptor is known as the ligand binding domain. So when the acetylcholine binds with the ligand binding domain of the receptor, then there will be a change in the receptor, and that change in receptor will then be translated to the G protein. And you know that there are many types of G protein present in the cell, and the type of the G protein which is linked with the M1, M3 or M5, both these three type of the receptors, they are linked with the same G protein, and the type of G protein which they are linked with is the GQ protein, GQ. So when there will be a change in the receptor after the acetylcholine binds with the receptor, that change will be translated into the G protein, and you know that when the G protein, then the G protein which is inactive, it becomes active. So when the G protein is inactive, it is acquiring the GDP, which is the guanosine diphosphate. And when the when the G protein is become activated, then it will acquire the GTP, which is the guanosine triphosphate. And all of you must be knowing that that the GTP containing 2 phosphate group and the GTP contains 3 phosphate group. So another addition of the phosphate group, you know that if you add phosphate group into any other compound molecule, you will increasing the activity, or you are increasing the energy of that particular molecule. So when the G protein become active, it will lose the GTP and will acquire the GTP. So the addition of another phosphate group to the G protein will make the G protein activated, will make the G protein energized. And you know that the G protein are made up of 3 subunits, alpha, beta, and the gamma. So when the G protein acquired the GTP, it becomes so energized that the 3 subunits of the G protein break away from each other. And then the 3 subunits of the G protein break away from each other. So the alpha unit goes away and the beta and gamma subunit goes away. What happens to the beta and the gamma subunit? We are not looking into that. So what the alpha subunit of the GQ protein do, we will see. So the alpha subunit of the G protein then goes, and you know that there is another enzyme which is known as the phospholipase C, and the phospholipase, you know that it breaks down the phosphatidyl inositol diphosphate biphosphate into inositol triphosphate and the diacylglycerol. And you know that inositol triphosphate then goes to the endoplasmic reticulum, which is storing the lot of the calcium, and the inositol triphosphate helps to release that calcium, and that calcium then comes into the cytosol, and then that calcium will then bind with the protein which is known as the calmodulin, and the complex is formed which is known as the calcium calmodulin complex, and that calcium calmodulin complex will activate then certain kinases. And you know what is the job of the kinase? The job of the kinase is to add the phosphate group into another molecular compound, or we can say it does the process of the phosphorylation. So the phosphorylation is the process of adding the phosphate group. And whenever you add the phosphate group into the molecular compound, you are increasing the energy, or you are increasing the activity. So if you are adding the phosphate group into the any enzyme, you will increase the activity of the enzyme. If you are adding the phosphate group into a channel, then you are increasing the activity of the channel. So this is how the activity will be increased. Secondly, then there will be also a diacylglycerol, which will be produced by the breakdown of the phosphatidyl inositol biphosphate. Then that diacylglycerol will also activate a protein kinase. That protein kinase is known as the protein kinase C. And what the protein kinase C do? Protein kinase C2 also do the phosphorylation, and that will add the phosphate group into the molecule. That molecule or compound could be either enzyme or the protein or channel. So that will also increase the activity. So this is how you are increasing the activity of the cell when the acetylcholine binds with either M1, M3, or M5, that is linked with the GQ. And the GQ, what GQ will do? GQ will at the end of the day will increases the activity of the kinases, and the kinases will do the phosphorylation, and the activity of the cell will be increased. And in the normal circumstances, when the acetylcholine or the drug is not binding with the cell, so these kinases are working in the normal condition, normal strength. But when the drug or the excess quantity of the acetylcholine binds with the receptor, so that you are activating more and more kinases. If the receptor is M1, M3, or M5, so these kinases will do the phosphorylation. So at the end of the day, you are well getting the increased activity of the enzyme in the cells, and this is how you are increasing the activity of the cell. Is that clear, class? Exactly. It is same like the adrenergic receptor. Exactly. Then if you really understand this, then it will be then much easier for you to understand what is the mechanism of action of the M2 and M4. If the M1, M3, M5, they are increasing the activity of cell, then the M2 and the M4 are decreasing the activity of cell. So definitely, and M2, M4, they are also the 7-pass serpentine metabotropic receptors. The M2 and M4, the only difference is that the M2 and the M4 receptors, they are linked with the G protein, which is not the GQ protein. They are linked with the G protein, which is the G inhibitory protein, right? So what really happens when the drug or the acetylcholine comes and bind with the M2 or the M4 receptor, it will stimulate the G protein, which is the G inhibitory protein. And you know that the G inhibitory protein, then the alpha subunit of the G inhibitory protein then goes to the enzyme which is known as the adenylyl cyclase. And you know that we have discussed that the adenylyl cyclase have two adenylate cyclase or adenylyl cyclase, they are both same thing. So you know that the adenylyl cyclase have two phases. One is the inhibitory phase and the other one is the positive phase. So the G inhibitory protein, so the alpha subunit of the G inhibitory protein binds with the inhibitory phase of the adenylyl cyclase. And you know what is the function of the adenylyl cyclase? The function of the adenylyl cyclase is to make the cyclic AMP from the ATP. The more you get the cyclic AMP, the more the protein kinase A will be activated. The less you get the cyclic AMP from the ATP, the less you will get the protein kinase A activation. So in that case, the G inhibitory protein is inhibiting the adenylyl cyclase. So definitely you will get less amount of cyclic AMP, and at the end of the day, you will get less activation of the protein kinase A. And when you get less activation of the protein kinase A, the protein kinase A will be less. So there will be less phosphorylation, less addition of phosphate groups to the enzymes or the channels, and less activation of these enzymes, and the channels will decrease the activity of the cell. So this is the process. These are the simple processes by which one type of receptor, one type of muscarinic receptor is excitatory, and the other type of receptor is inhibitory. Simply, what is the mechanism? What is the rationale? That those muscarinic receptor which are excitatory, they are linked with the protein GQ. So therefore, the SL activity is increased, because at the end of the day, these type of excitatory receptors are increasing the kinases activity. So therefore, with the cell activity is increased. And why the M2 and M4 are inhibitory receptor? Because these are those receptors which are linked with the G inhibitory protein. So they are decreasing the activity of the kinases in our body, the kinases in our cell. So therefore, the activity of our cell is decreased. So this is the rationale, this is the mechanism how the M1, M3, and M5 are the excitatory receptor, and how the M2 and the M4 are the inhibitory receptors. So keep this thing in mind, because for example, if there are many drugs which are only the M1, M3, or M5 selective, there are many drugs which are only the M2 and M4. These are there are many drugs. If a drug which is M1 agonist, then you will understand that that drug is increasing the activity of a cell. So for example, I have told you that the muscarinic receptor M3 muscarinic receptor is present at the bronchial smooth muscles. I've told you that the M3 receptor are present in the smooth muscles, those smooth muscles which are being innervating by the parasympathetic nervous system. So the bronchial smooth muscles are also getting the innervation from the parasympathetic nervous system. So definitely that smooth muscle is getting the M3 receptor. So I've told you that the M3 receptors are present at the smooth muscles. So the M3 receptors are present in the bronchial smooth muscles. So if you stimulate the M3 receptor at the bronchial smooth muscle, you are increasing the activity of that bronchial smooth muscles. So for example, if you stimulate the bronchial smooth muscles, then there will be the increased secretion by the M3 receptors, because it is increasing the activity of cells. So the bronchial smooth muscles can undergo the constriction, can increase the secretion. So you know that because why because M3 receptors are the excitatory receptor, they increase the activity of cell. So when the activity of cell is increased, the contraction is increased and the secretion is also increased. So the stimulation of the M3 receptor by any drug can increase the secretion and can also increase the contraction of the smooth muscle. Number 1 point. This is the rational. This is the clinical application. Number second point is, for example, I have told you that the M2 and the M4 are the inhibitory receptor. You know that M2 receptor are present at the level of the heart, and where at the heart they are located? They are located at the level of the SA node, right? So if any drug goes and bind and stimulate the M2 receptor at the level of the heart, at the level of the SA node, then what will happen? SA node activity will be increased or decreased? SA node activity will be decreased. And when the SA node activity will be increased, the heart rate will be increased or decreased? Heart rate will be decreased. So therefore, that muscarinic, therefore the acetylcholine decreases the heart rate. You know that the parasympathetic nervous system decreases the heart rate. Why? Because the parasympathetic nervous system are all the cholinergic neurons, and when they release the acetylcholine, that acetylcholine then goes to the heart, and at the heart we have the M2 receptors, and when the acetylcholine binds with the M2 receptor, then you know that the M2 receptors are the inhibitory receptor. Therefore, this is the reason you are getting the decreased heart rate. But if that same acetylcholine goes to the bronchial smooth muscles or any other smooth muscles which is having the M1, M3 or M5, so definitely the selectivity is increased. So in that case, you are getting a smooth muscle contraction, or you are increasing the activity of this cell, you are increasing the secretion. So this is the reason, these are the rationales, that same acetylcholine somewhere is increasing the activity and somewhere it is decreasing the activity. So if you really know about the distribution of the receptor, if you really know about the properties of the receptor, then it will be easier for you to understand the property of the drug. Are you getting my point, class? नेगेटिव साइन इनहिबिटरी का साइन है. एडिनाइलेट या एडिनाइल साइक्लेज एक ही चीज है. इस एंजाइम के दो फेसेस होते हैं, एक इनहिबिटरी फेस होता है जिसको ये माइनस से शो किया है, और एक पॉजिटिव फेस होता है जिसको प्लस से शो किया है. तो इनहिबिटरी फेस से आपको मालूम है कि जी इनहिबिटरी प्रोटीन इंटरेक्ट करती है, और पॉजिटिव फेस से जो एडिनाइल साइक्लेज का, इससे आपका जी स्टिमुलेटरी प्रोटीन इंटरेक्ट करती है. कुछ क्वेश्चंस हैं, मैं देख लूं. PLC is phospholipase C. Yes. PLC is phospholipase C. Gene inhibitor protein, only gene inhibitor protein binds with the inhibitory phase of the adenylyl cyclase. Yes. I think this diagram is confusing you, but मैं जो आपसे कह रहा हूँ उस पर ट्रस्ट करें कि जी इनहिबिटरी प्रोटीन जो है वही नेगेटिव फेज से करती है और पॉजिटिव फेज से जी स्टिमुलेटरी करती है. ये GQ इन्होंने जो शो किया है, ये GQ इन्होंने जो किया है वो सही नहीं किया, सिर्फ जी इनहिबिटरी करता है. GQ उन्होंने गलत किया हुआ है. नहीं, ये गलत किया हुआ है इन्होंने, ये जो शो किया है गलत किया हुआ है. सिर्फ जी इनहिबिटरी फेज जो है वो इनहिबिटरी फेज से करता है, ये गलत है. ये जो पॉजिटिव साइन है यहाँ पे किसी का काम ही नहीं था, ना जी इनहिबिटरी का पॉजिटिव का काम था, ना GQ का पॉजिटिव काम था. सिर्फ पॉजिटिव फेज एडिनाइल साइकिल का जी स्टिमुलेटरी करता है, ये सिर्फ जी इनहिबिटरी नेगेटिव फेज को करेगा. व्हाट इज बीटा इन PLC? No, this is not the PLC beta. This is only the phospholipase C. It is not do not look after the beta. This is only the phospholipase C जो हमने पीछे देखा था, बस phospholipase C एंजाइम होता है। देखिए ना, ये phospholipase C था, phospholipase C जो है वो ब्रेक डाउन हो गया। phospholipase C ने फॉस्फेटिडाइल डाइफॉस्फेट को ब्रेक डाउन किया IP3 और डाइएसाइल ग्लाइसोल में। इस डायग्राम में थोड़े बहुत एरर्स हैं, लेकिन ठीक है, आपने पूछ के क्लियर कर लिया। अच्छा, कोई और क्वेश्चन है बेटे, पूछें। एनी क्वेश्चन? अभी हम इंशाल्लाह ड्रग्स का हम शुरू कर देंगे, ड्रग्स के बारे में पढ़ना। अभी मेरे ख्याल से इनफ है, इतना आप लोगों को रिसेप्टर्स के बारे में बता दिया है। और एड्रेनालाइल साइक्लेस का एक्साइटेटरी फेज जो है बेटा GQ कैरी नहीं करता। ये इसमें मैं यही कह रहा हूँ कि ये गलत लिखा है, जी स्टिमुलेटरी करता है। जी स्टिमुलेटरी हमने पढ़ा था ना बीटा 1 बीटा 2 और बीटा 3 रिसेप्टर्स में, कि उसमें जो जी स्टिमुलेटरी प्रोटीन होती है वो एड्रेनालाइल साइक्लेस के पॉजिटिव, वो एड्रेनालाइल साइक्लेस की एक्टिविटी को इंक्रीज करती है। वो जी स्टिमुलेटरी बीटा 1 बीटा 2 बीटा 3 रिसेप्टर्स का मैकेनिज्म आप खोलें, उसमें देखें, उसमें जो जी प्रोटीन होती है बीटा 1 बीटा 2 बीटा 3 के साथ, वो जी स्टिमुलेटरी प्रोटीन होती है। और अल्फा 1 के साथ जो है वो GQ प्रोटीन होती थी, और अल्फा 2 के साथ जो है वो जी इनहिबिटरी होती है, क्योंकि अल्फा 2 आपको पता है एक्टिविटी डिक्रीज करता है। तो ये GQ जो इस डायग्राम में शो किया है ये गलत किया हुआ है। एनी क्वेश्चन मोर क्लास? वी हैव 4 to 5 minutes लेफ्ट। आप क्वेश्चन पूछ सकते हैं। आगे जो है इंशाल्लाह मैं ड्रग्स स्टार्ट करेंगे हम। एनी क्वेश्चन क्लास? मेरा GI और GQ में डिफरेंस स्ट्रक्चरली जो है, मुझे उसका इतना आइडिया नहीं है कि डिफरेंस स्ट्रक्चरली में क्या है, क्योंकि जी प्रोटीन्स का जो स्ट्रक्चर है वो आपस में एक दूसरे से इतना डिफर नहीं करता एज फार एज आई नो। लेकिन आई विल कम टू यू विद दिस के जी इनहिबिटरी और GQ में अगर स्ट्रक्चरली कोई डिफरेंस है तो वो क्या है। क्योंकि हर रिसेप्टर के साथ जी प्रोटीन्स आपकी लिपिड बाइलेयर के साथ एम्बेडेड होती हैं, काफ़ी टाइप की ये जी प्रोटीन जितनी हैं। डिपेंड करता है कि कौन सी टाइप की जी प्रोटीन की एफिनिटी है उस रिसेप्टर के साथ, तो जाके वो उसके साथ बाइंड करता है जब वो रिसेप्टर स्टिमुलेट होता है। और तो हर जी प्रोटीन की अपनी प्रॉपर्टी है। अब ये जी इनहिबिटरी प्रोटीन अगर इनहिबिटरी प्रोटीन बन रही है तो ये इसकी प्रॉपर्टी है। अगर स्ट्रक्चरली क्या इसमें चेंज है तो वो मैं फिर आपको इसको नेक्स्ट क्लास में आपको मैं इसका आंसर दे दूंगा, अगर ऐसा कोई डिफरेंस स्ट्रक्चरली होता है। देखें, ड्रग्स जो हैं वो आप बुक्स खोलें, आप लिपिनकॉट फार्माकोलॉजी खोलें, कोलिनर्जिक की ड्रग्स जो हैं वो भी इंशाल्लाह डिस्कस करेंगे, उससे पहले आप पढ़ें। एडिनर्जिक की जो हम देख चुके हैं वो आप उसको पढ़ें, आप उसको समझें, आपको काफ़ी सारे कॉन्सेप्ट दे चुका हूँ मैं, काफ़ी सारे हम पढ़ चुके हैं, तो उसको आप समझने की कोशिश करें। जिसमें मस्कुलिनिक रिसेप्टर का तो मैकेनिज्म ये था, निकोटिनिक रिसेप्टर का मैकेनिज्म हमने डिस्कस किया था ना। ये निकोटिनिक रिसेप्टर का ये निकोटिनिक रिसेप्टर है आपका। निकोटिनिक रिसेप्टर का मैकेनिज्म ये था, ये निकोटिनिक रिसेप्टर है जो कि लिपिड बाइलेयर में ये भी प्रेजेंट होता है। और एसिटाइल कोलिन जैसे आपका ये भी रिसेप्टर है, इसको आप चैनल, ये रिसेप्टर एक चैनल के जैसा है, लेकिन ये रिसेप्टर ही है। एसिटाइलकोलिन इस रिसेप्टर के साथ जाके बाइंड करता है, जब इसको बाइंड करता है, इसको स्टिमुलेट करता है, तो ये चैनल जो बंद होता है पहले, ये चैनल खुल जाता है। तो सोडियम बाहर से, ये सोडियम चैनल होते हैं टाइप, मतलब इसको आप सोडियम चैनल नहीं कहते, लेकिन ये सोडियम चैनल टाइप होते हैं एक तरह के। तो एसिटाइलकोलिन जब इनसे बाइंड करता है निकोटेनिक रिसेप्टर्स के, तो निकोटेनिक रिसेप्टर सोडियम की एंट्री को अलाउ करते हैं। कुछ कुछ कहते हैं पोटेशियम भी आता है अंदर, लेकिन सोडियम की एंट्री को ज्यादा अलाउ करते हैं ये। तो निकोटेनिक ये चैनल, निकोटेनिक रिसेप्टर्स हैं ये। नाम किसका? मिशक फातिमा, उसका नाम है जस्ट, मतलब मैं समझा नहीं आपकी बात। जी मैं स्लाइड शेयर कर दूंगा। ड्रग्स नेम, आप ड्रग्स नेम जो हैं वो आपको प्रैक्टिस से याद होते हैं, आप उसको प्रैक्टिस से याद हो सकते हैं। आप ड्रग्स जो हैं वो आप उसकी एक पेपर, आप जो है नाम लिख के आप कहीं डिस्प्ले भी कर सकते हैं, आप डेली उसको देख सकती हैं, उससे भी आपके मेमोराइज हो जाएंगे। देखिए सुमैया जुनैद, इसका क्वेश्चन का आंसर जो मैंने है वो दिया था कि क्यों जो है बीटा वन रिसेप्टर जो है वो स्टिमुलेशन के लिए और बीटा टू जो इनिबिशन के लिए, उसका रीज़न ये था कि बीटा वन जो है और बीटा टू जो है वो दोनों जी स्टिमुलेटरी प्रोटीन, और वो एडेनिलाइल साइक्लेस को एक्टिवेट करते हैं, और एडेनिलाइल साइक्लेस साइक्लिक एएमपी को इंक्रीज करता है, और साइक्लिक एएमपी प्रोटीन काइनेज ए को आके एक्टिवेट करते हैं। दोनों प्रोटीन काइनेज को एक्टिवेट कर रहे हैं, लेकिन बीटा टू जो है वो क्यों रिलैक्सेशन करता है मसल्स की, और क्यों बीटा वन जो है वो कॉन्ट्रेक्शन करता है या इंक्रीज करता है हार्ट की। उसका रीज़न ये था कि बीटा टू, क्योंकि साइक्लिक एम प्रोटीन काइनेज ए जो है उसका एक्शन ब्रोंकियल स्मूथ मसल्स में, या स्मूथ मसल ऐसी ब्लड वेसल्स जो कि स्केलेटल मसल्स को ब्लड सप्लाई कर रही हैं, उसमें एक्शन थोड़ा सा डिफरेंट आता है। उसमें एक्शन ये डिफरेंट आता है कि डिफरेंट मैकेनिज्म ऑफ एक्शन आपके प्ले कर रहे होते हैं रोल। प्रोटीन काइनेज ए जो है बीटा वन से एक्टिविटी इंक्रीज होती है, और सेल में जो कैल्शियम की कंसंट्रेशन है वो इंक्रीज होती है, और सेल में जब कैल्शियम की कंसंट्रेशन इंक्रीज होती है तो कॉन्ट्रैक्शन इंक्रीज हो जाती है। लेकिन इन द केस ऑफ द बीटा टू रिसेप्टर ऑन ब्रोंकियल स्मूथ मसल्स, प्रोटीन काइनेज ए जो है